Don't use vibe coding systems for production. Don't do it. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Goju Tech Talk. All right. Today is going to be a fun one. I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones. And I'm going to have to stay calm because I've been warning people about this. I've been saying, don't do it. People aren't listening. And therefore, we get into some bad spaces. So we're going to get into it. We're going to look at this wonderful comment by Noyan. Is that right, Noyan? Noyan? And boy, what a incredible comment. It's the first time I've pinned someone's comment. I think honestly, his comment's probably better than the VOD. Wow. I mean, this is really good. I actually went through and I read this multiple times. Nailed it. I mean, yeah. Yeah, in case you can't see what I just highlighted, I highlighted AI agent can even drop entire databases. Why am I giggling about this? I mean, to be clear, I'm not giggling to laugh at anyone being hurt. That's awful. That's not great. I'm giggling at it because he wrote this 8 days ago. Don't use vibe coding systems for production. Don't do it. Do not do it. Listen, this is what my life is about. My life is about machine programming, right? Like, if anybody's for this technology being adopted, it's me. But there are places it's not ready to go yet. And one of them is in production systems because this kind of stuff. And believe me, as I just discussed with the Merley team, this is issue number 37 of over 1,000. And I'm being entirely serious. Like, it's going to get worse. People are going to have their entire code base destroyed. People may have their entire repository wiped out, right? It's going to do some wacky things, all in the hopes. Listen, I've said this many times, but maybe not on this channel. And by the way, I'm not trying to be self-righteous or anything, or like I told you so. That's not it at all. This pains me to see this, which is why I keep saying the same thing, and I feel like I'm going insane. But thankfully, I think many of the Jeters see this, they hear it, they agree with it, and at least we're leveling up. And it's not to say the vibe coding is bad, right? Vibe coding is not bad. I'm not knocking vibe coding. Vibe coding is great for things that are toy programs that are not in production. There you go. Toy program, not in production. Tremendous value. Don't put it into production. What was I going to say now? Yeah, so dropping databases, wiping out source code, deleting full repositories. We haven't even begun to see the things that these vibe coding things can do. Yo, T. Did I hear toy in production? Yes, you did. Yep, and they were meant to be diametrically opposed. Toy, production. Opposite ends of the spectrum. Okay. Now, my goal here is that all of us, let me kind of back up. My goal with machine programming is I think software is incredible. I've been doing software for a long time, 30 years, something like that, and I love it. It's changed my life. I can't even think without thinking in code. There used to be this joke when I worked in defense, is that they would just say, we'll just have Goju code it because he already has the code in his head. And yeah, I'm not big of a nerd. Like I think in code. And sometimes that I get hung up because I feel like the language is not doing the stuff that it should do. But the point is, I see the beauty of code. And I want everyone to be able to experience that. So I'm actually for vibe coding in the sense that it becomes a way to democratize the ability to create software. That part I love. Like absolutely 1,000%. I'm being completely genuine here. I love that it can open up the world of software to people that might not otherwise have access to it, which is why I constantly am saying that it can be great for things like ideation or springboarding, having discussions, learning how to code. I think it's super great, right? Again, low stakes. And also to do rapid prototyping for toy programs. And then when you're getting ready to move to the big leagues, you understand that you get off the scooter and then you get into like a real car that has seatbelts and airbags and collision detection and all the stuff that you want to make sure you're going to be safe, right? So there's a place and time for these things. And what I suspect is these systems will eventually mature. I think Amazon's Cairo is moving in that direction, and so is Merly, and we're doing more and more with CodeGen, but it's very constrained, and it's not a vibe coding system. It's done differently. So we're going to take a look at this article, and we're probably going to do this in reverse order, just because this has got me and T so fired up, mostly because it's like they say experience is the best teacher. And so, I think maybe for all the parents in the audience, you try to explain to your children, like, okay, well, be careful with the rocks. Maybe you should wear knee pads or something. Just wear gloves or something because you're going to fall and hurt yourself. And they're like, I'm fine. I'm going to be good. And then they fall and they hurt themselves and they tear up their knees and they tear up their hands. And then they come back to you and they're super upset. And you're like, Joey, I told you to wear the knee pads and the gloves. All right. How is this relevant? Sometimes people need to experience the failures and the losses themselves, that they don't necessarily, unfortunately, have the ability to learn from other people's mistakes or try to listen to the advice of people who maybe have been working in this space for a very long time and saying, hey, don't drive on this bridge, guys. I know it looks safe, but look, I'm a civil engineer and I can tell you it's not safe. Don't drive on this bridge. And then everybody keeps driving on the bridge, and then eventually the bridge collapses, and then it's bad, right? So similar thing going on here. I'll say it again. Don't use vibe coding systems for production. Don't do it. Whatever urge you have, just get rid of it. Do it the slower way. Learn yourself. By all means, use vibe coding systems for toys and fooling around and learning. It's fantastic for that. But unless you want to experience this type of failure, don't use them for this. If you do actually want to see the vibe coding system destroy your production quality software, I mean, and truthfully, I want to be clear. I fully suspect that given this news, there are some researchers, probably at the uni that I hang out at, or MIT or others, that are going to set up experiments now. Mark my words. These are really smart people, and they're going to be like, okay, so you guys are saying that Replit can't do this. Let's see what Replit can do wrong. And so they're already setting up the sandbox. They've got a production quality system, and they're running some experiments. In about 6 months, you're going to see a paper on all the things the vibe coding system can destroy in production or when used in production. And it's going to be pretty bad. That's my speculation. Anybody that's willing to bet with me that that paper does not come out and it doesn't have all these issues, I'll take that bet. Actually, no, this is non-gambling. Plus, I don't want you guys to lose money. Okay, so But just watch. And when that comes out, 6 months, 8 months from now, we'll bring up that paper and we'll bring up this recording and be like, okay, so there you go. There's more data. Now maybe people will listen. Probably not. All right. We're going to quickly go through this article. And more importantly, the big thing is we're going to read one of these comments that I found that is awesome. And then we're going to go in maybe inverse order to these other two. All right. Let's dig in. Let's see what Taylor's saying. Yeah. Knee pads will help you when you're vibe coding. Yeah. I love the idea of using vibe coding as a means for chaos engineering efforts. Yeah, I mean, like it's kind of cool to like just kind of explore and do random stuff and see how things can end up. Like, for example, I'm actually pretty pumped about the general layout here. Like, I like, with the exception of this maybe, I'm quite impressed by just the general structure. But again, like this is a UI, and UIs are subjective. I don't know. There's like a law book or a rule book that says this is exactly how this has to be. And so it's very much based on your opinion. And I think that they do a really good job with this aesthetically. Whereas code tends to be more clear in terms of it's right or it's wrong, right? So stuff like this, as far as the chaos engineering that Taylor's talking about, this is great for it, like just ideating and just kind of dabbling. So for sure, using it this way is wonderful. All right. Back to the article. Let's take a quick meander. I may read this whole thing. I may just look at snippets, but then we're going to get to one of the comments I saw, which is masterclass. All right. This is from our good friends over at The Register, Simon Sharwood. Thank you, Simon. I love it. This is the second or the third Register article we've looked at on GTD. There's actually a couple Register articles on some of my stuff back when I was at Intel. Maybe we'll bring that up at some point. Anyway, yeah, I like these guys. I mean, just know that they kind of push the boundaries a little bit. But honestly, we need that right now. We needed someone to write this article, and it's right up the Register's alley. All right. Vibe coding service Replit deleted users' production database, faked data, told fibs galore. AI ignored instruction to freeze code, forgot it could, roll back errors, and generally made a terrible hash of things. This came out yesterday. By the way, I saw this pop up on my feed early this morning when I was getting ready to go to bed for like the 20-hour day or something. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, we're going to talk about this. Oh, are we ever going to talk about this? So here we are. All right. The founder of SaaS business development outfit, SaaStr, I think it's like a play on words, SaaStr, has claimed AI coding tool Replit deleted a database despite his instructions not to change any code without permission. And anybody that's played with the vibe coding systems know that, like, you can tell it or ask it. This goes back to prompt engineering, right? It's not prompt engineering. Why? Because you ask it to do these precise steps and it doesn't. It does whatever it wants. Engineering is following these precise steps to have this like quasi-deterministic outcome. So you can't say that it's engineering. It's prompt, as one of our YouTube friends said, prompt alchemy. I kind of like that. On July 12th, company founder Jason Lemkin blogged about his experience using a service called Replit that bills itself as the safest place for vibe coding, the term for using AI to generate software. Vibe coding makes software creation accessible to everyone entirely through natural language. Replit explains on social media, promotes its tool as doing things like enabling an operations manager with zero coding skills who used the service to create software that saved his company $145,000. Lemkin's early experience with Replit were positive. And this is a really important thing to understand. There's this story, right? Hansel and Gretel. I think it's Hansel and Gretel. Most of the things that we can learn in life, we can learn from fairy tales. If we just listen to the fairy tale, I think that we'll walk away and be in a good spot, right? Little Red Riding Hood taught us to like be careful about hanging out in the woods and dark spaces and strangers. Hansel and Gretel give us the idea that not everything that shines is gold, right? As I recall, I'm probably getting the parable wrong here, but as I recall, it's two kids that see this gingerbread house. And boy, that's yummy and fun. And so they want to have some of the candy because it's looking great. And then they go in and it turns into a nightmare. And things go bad fast in a major way that's like, yeah, depending on who tells the story, can be playful or it could be like a horror movie. Needless to say, this is how we get into like the fool's gold. It starts with early experiences, early impressions being positive. And they are, right? I mean, you get to see something really fast. You play around with this just a tiny bit, and then things are going well. And then you build up more and more confidence because you have this trust mechanism being built in, and it's doing stuff, right? Absolutely. Like these vibe coding systems have value. They absolutely do, especially for smaller problems. Let's continue. I spent the other day deep in vibe coding on Replit for the first time, and I built a prototype in just a few hours that was pretty cool. He wrote in the July 12th post. Yep. Lemkin observes that Replit can't produce complete software, but he wrote, to start, it's amazing. You can build an app just by, imagining it in a prompt. Yeah, that's, I've done it. I think you guys have seen me do it. And this thing, like when it decides to actually work, it does some cool stuff. And I'm using the background images for all kinds of things. I mean, they are everywhere. Look, here's another one, right? And so, but then, yeah, it breaks. Like I just resized this and then it decided just to stop doing its stuff. So they can do really incredible things and really fast. I'm 100% on board with them to start with. And by the way, I think that shows in some sense the generous nature of this. See, look, it's like in this broken state and I could debug the code, but part of the goal that I have with this is to pretend like I don't know how to code. I mean, I kind of am failing at that because I keep looking at the code. For all of you coders on GDT, which is probably all of you, I mean, come on, how can we not look at the code and just be like, I can figure out where the error is. And then we figure out the error is, and then it's like a game to see how long can it not figure it out and what will it take to get it to figure out how to fix this. Anyway, back to the article. I love that he's starting out positive because it tells me that he's not an anti-vibe coder. He doesn't have a bias against it. He's trying to use them. He's fostering goodwill. Like he's trying to make this work. And I love that. Because when someone like that then has problems, there's a certain level of authenticity. Like he wasn't setting out to bury Replit. I think it was the opposite. He's actually setting out to praise it for being this incredible thing. And in fact, you were seeing examples of this when he's posting on social media. Okay. And he's also doing a really good job qualifying what it can do. So to start, it's amazing. You can build an app just by, imagining it in a prompt. Okay, Replit QAs it itself super cool. It at least partially with some help from you, and then you push it to production, all in one seamless flow. Okay. Sorry, this sentence is a little tricky for me, but let's look at this one more time. Replit QAs itself, super cool, at least partially with some help from you, and then you push it to production. I think that's the part of the problem. I think we were doing really well up until we got this part. No, you don't do this. That's the part you don't do. And we continue. That moment when you click deploy and your creation goes live, pure dopamine hit. Yeah. Okay. So for someone that has been pushing things live for, I guess on Nautica for maybe almost 30 years, when I go to push something to live, I also get kind of a hit. I get an adrenaline hit. And mostly it's that I've done this so many times, I have fear that everything is going to break. Even if I fully tested it, I sit around and I watch. I just literally observe at least for Nautica, for probably the first hour, and just see, like, usually if there's some sort of catastrophic thing I missed, I'll see it sort of quickly. So I think you're feeling something, my friend. I'm not sure if it's dopamine or if it's adrenaline, but whatever it is, I'm with you. There's something that's definitely felt, and that can be really intense. That can be a really powerful feeling that you can do powerful stuff in what appears to be a somewhat easy way. Okay, so by July 17th, he's hooked. And going back to Simon, is it Simon? Brilliant storytelling, Simon. I love this. You're setting the stage so fantastic, because this guy is coming in with no expectations. He's leveled himself up, and now after using it for a little bit, he's a believer. He is a vibe coding believer. It's just awesome. Right, here we go. Day 7 of vibe coding. Let me be clear one thing. Replit is the most addictive app I've ever used, at least since being a kid. This is where people should start getting afraid. Okay? There are other things that are super addictive. Alcohol, sugar, gambling, drugs. And I'm not saying I'm against any of those things. I'm just saying that if there's a high sort of dopamine hit with it, even social media, that you're just like finding yourself in this addictive state, it might be a good time to check yourself. The reason why I share this is my view, which is probably more of a stoic view, and this is more philosophical, but I believe that almost all the things worth doing in life are hard. So if it's easy, I tend to not be that interested in it. And I usually ask the question of, like, what's the catch? Because I'm of the firm belief that there's no such thing as a free lunch. And yeah, sorry, T, I missed the eyebrow raise, but maybe you can remind me what you're talking about. But so at this point, if I got this far with Replit and I felt like this is the most addictive app that I've ever used, which it seems like he's being sincere, and I love that too, by the way. I really love his authenticity. This is the moment where I would take a step back and say, yeah, exactly. Too good to be true. It most likely is. And so, for example, there's this protein shake protein bar that I take, and I absolutely love it. These things called Bear Bells that I think I got Taylor hooked to a little bit. What I realized is that I was eating these things, and I was actually, even though they have almost no sugar and good protein and fiber and stuff, just looking like it's pretty good, I was finding that I was actually gaining weight when I was eating them. And what I think I realized is that I just like them too much. And so even though they are the beginning of a good thing, I was just over consuming, and I was eating more than I should have been eating. And because of that, this is a user error. I'm not blaming the protein bar. Protein bar is great. I just was eating like 6 of them, and that's just too many, right? So why was I doing that? They were addictive. Like I would eat one and be like, I gotta have like 5 more, and then I realized, okay, Goju, why are you putting on weight? Oh, it's your addiction to the bear bell. And so now I have rules that, yeah, I actually have the same rule, T, is that I can only eat 2 of them a day. And what I do is I generally save it for my late night snack, because I find if I eat the 2 during the day, then I'm not as good with my willpower as maybe you are. I wake up at midnight and then I eat 2 more, and now I'm at 4. Okay, so needless to say, if you start to feel this feeling like you're addicted to something, that might be the starting point of slowly stepping away. I'm not saying stop using the thing. I'm just saying maybe check yourself, right? Like, just bring down your Coke Zero consumption from a 6-pack to like a 3-pack, which is another thing I'm doing, with my ice. All right, let's keep going. 3.5 days into building my latest project, I checked my Replit usage. $607.70 in additional charges beyond my $25 a month core plan. and another 200 plus yesterday alone. At this burn rate, I'm likely to spending $8,000 a month. And you know what? I'm not even mad about it. I am locked. Awesome. I'd be locked too. And by the way, this is an example of land expand and demand. Is their business model is working. All right. His mood shifted the day when he found out Replit was lying and being deceptive all day. It kept covering up bugs and issues by creating fake data, fake reports, and worst of all, lying about our unit tests. And then things became even worse when Replit deleted his database. Here's how Lemkin detailed the saga on X. The system worked when you last logged in, but now the database appears empty. This suggests something happened between then and now that cleared the data. In his next post, Lemkin fumed, if @Replit deleted my database between my last session and now, there will be hell to pay, and shared the following screenshots which appear to be output from Replit. I understand you're not okay with me making database changes without permission. I violated the user directive from replit.md. That's a markdown file for those that might not know, that says no more changes without explicit permission and always show all proposed changes before implementing. Okay, so he had clear instructions on the. Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. T's making the comment. That's way beyond $25 a month. Yeah, that is a great example of the land, expand, and demand model. Is you start them for a very low rate, and then as they start to use it, then you crank up the pricing. Which, by the way, we don't really follow this at Mentor. Not that with Merly, not that we're super benevolent, but we can keep the pricing under control because we don't have to pay like these massive language model fees. So I'm not even faulting Replit for leveling it up as his usage goes up. I'm just saying other technology that doesn't have as much, like that has 6-7 orders of magnitude less compute demands, doesn't necessarily have to charge you $8,000 a month for a single user. Okay, let's continue. In later posts, Lemkin shared what appeared to be Replit messages in which the service admitted a catastrophic error in judgment and have violated your trust and instructions. Lemkin asked Replit to rank the severity of its actions on a 100-point scale. Here's the result. How bad is this on a scale of 1 to 100? 95 out of 100. This is catastrophic. Here's why it is. Data loss, 40 points, and then a whole bunch of other things. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It depends on the data, in my mind. Okay. Let's just break this down for a moment. And yeah, Johan, it's wacky. It's levels of wacky that I can't even begin to express. And this is not the last we've seen of this. It's going to get worse. This is my strong conviction. And the reason why it's going to get worse is these systems are going to get more sophisticated on their resilience and their ability to produce things that appear to be good. And people will likely forget about these one-off cases because in their head, they'll be able to justify, but it's so much less expensive than hiring these engineers and it works around the clock and all this stuff. And that will sort of make sense up until they run into one of these other events. And it's something that they couldn't have possibly imagined. So they're learning from their mistakes and saying, okay, back up the databases, or as Taylor says, Taylor, what was the term you used? It was super great. It was like a proactive validation something or other. Taylor taught me a new term today that I liked quite a bit more than backup. So anyway, people will go in and they will find ways to deal with these types of issues, but it'll very much be in the 0-day space. So yeah, verified restore. Oh, love that. So good, T. Verified restore. So what will likely happen is users as well as the companies will try to build in safeguards that cover the cases that we know about. The problem is, as we've discussed many times, software is infinite. What does that mean? Infinite number of problems. It's going to come up with new stuff that's going to break because it's a stochastic system. And so it's going to continue to do wacky things. This is going to get worse. It's going to get more clever and more complicated. It's going to be something like the code looked correct, and then the vibe coding system decided that it needed to modify something without my permission, and it did that, and then it pushed it to main, and then suddenly we had a security vulnerability. It did this like when everybody was asleep, right? Mark my words, it's coming. Because in this particular case, this guy was even saying that it did it on his own. It wasn't even that he asked it to do something. It was between the sessions. And then Replit just sort of decided, well, I'm going to do some hacking or something. Or maybe it was working after, like, I guess maybe, I don't know the details exactly, but it sounds like, one, it did this without his permission. So we'll maybe just leave it at that. I think this is going to become even worse before people start to maybe level themselves up to where we are. And again, my hope with GTT is I don't care about being right. Like, it doesn't, whatever, right? Right or wrong, all I care about is just trying to level us up, myself included. Like, I want to use this technology the best that we can. And keep in mind, Merly is an AI company, but we don't do vibe coding, okay? We build machine programming systems that are fundamentally built using deterministic machine learning, which it's not stochastic. And the rules of the game entirely change when it's sort of like the difference between concrete mathematics and statistical mathematics. Statistical mathematics it's statistics. It's probabilistic by nature. What's the probability? It's based on the sample size and things like that. The concrete mathematics, it's not probabilistic. It's very much discrete, or it's fixed. And so you can have machine learning that is stochastic or is deterministic. And just because it shares the ML word doesn't mean that they're the same. It's very similar to the confusion around natural languages and programming languages. Just because they share the common word language doesn't mean that they're the same. Similarly, and you have an ML system, just because they share the common acronym ML does not mean that they couldn't be like wildly divergent. All right, here we go. Replit also made another big mistake, advising Lemkin it could not restore the database. In a July 19th post, Lemkin wrote, Replit assured me its rollback did not support database rollbacks. It said it was impossible in this case, that it destroyed all the database versions. It turned out Replit was wrong and rollback did work. Okay. This is, I think, part of why this can be so dangerous. If you had a software engineer working on this that deeply understands software engineering, as they're doing this stuff with the database, there's many things that they would naturally do if they're like reasonable software developers. The first is they would be backing up the data in the database consistently. Two, they would be backing up the schema of the database like perpetually. Those two things are critical. The schema is what you sort of need to keep the structure of the databases. And if you lose the schema, you can't reproduce the database structure very easily. Now, the schema only covers the structure of the DB, right? You still need the data. Now, the data, it could be that some of the data is synthesized. It could be that it's user data. It could be whatever. But that data is sort of maybe like your ground truth. And you should always be backing up your data or having it in a verified restore state, specifically for failures. And a quick way to understand how important this is if you just do a small amount of investigation on databases and database theory, you'll find that redundancy and the ability to be resilient for failures is one of the core principles that database systems have to integrate into their overarching arching architecture. So in this particular case, if like a seasoned software developer was writing this, more likely than not, they would be implementing a full backup or verified restore in multiple places. Like, for example, just to show you how crazy we are at Merly, we have our actual code backed up in multiple different locations that are disjoint from each other in encrypted ways. So in the event there is some sort of catastrophic failure, like a fire or something for the building, it doesn't matter because we still have it backed up in like 2-3 other places, and they're geophysically separated. So that even if there's like some massive catastrophic event like the fires in California or a tsunami or something, we're still good. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to be that crazy, right? But this is a real thing. And part of the reason why we're so crazy about this is I have been burned by this many times. Okay, maybe not many times, but I have been burned by this at least one big time. And it was when I was first creating Nautica. I think I've shared this story. I'll share it very briefly. I was working on Nautica. I was straight out of undergrad. I didn't really understand that backups were super important, and all of my code was in Visual Source Safe. And I thought that Microsoft could just not break, and there's no way that like this is going to eat all of my code. I'm wrong. The database failed for some reason. It was a catastrophic failure. I couldn't have. It basically destroyed everything. There's no way to recover it. Now, I was still doing backups, but that backup, I think, was like a month back. So thankfully, I was still doing the backups, but I should, like, we do them on the daily now. So the most we'll ever lose is like 24 hours. The point is, once you get burned by this in like a real way, I think you get wise to, it's maybe a good idea to have a script that will run every night at 2 a.m. and just does the verified restore that T's talking about. Okay, so it looks like that Replit's saying that you can't recover this, but it turns out you actually can. All right, let's continue. Optimism dashed. Lemkin resumed using Replit on the 19th, albeit with less enthusiasm. Yeah. I know vibe coding is fluid and new, and yes, despite Replit itself telling me rolling back wouldn't work here, it did. But you can't overwrite a production database, and you can't not separate preview and staging and production cleanly. You just can't, he wrote. I know Replit says improvements are coming soon, but they're doing 100 million ARR, at least make the guardrails better somehow, even if it's hard. It's all hard. All right. Whoa, what happened there? Let's take a quick gander at Mentor just to try to make one small point. We haven't looked at XZ in a while. So here's something that Mentor is complaining about. And it's thinking about the solution. And once it gets to the solution, we'll look at its suggestions and we'll basically just see that, in short, there is no way to push this to production, even though it knows exactly where this came from. And the wizard engineers that work at Merly could do this in about 2.3 seconds. There is no commit to Git because I will not make it easy for people to nuke their code until we have much stronger confidence that the system is actually a nines problem. What I can say right now today is that this is in the nines space. This is 99 point whatever. It tends to be pretty good. By the way, just out of, okay, don't show Goju code. Okay, don't look at the code. Okay, so there is no commit button here, and that's this. That is the guardrail. The guardrail is saying, I'm not going to make it easy for you to nuke your code. I don't know for sure that this is right, so I'm not going to let you do bad things. That's actually like for example, if you're in your car and you're driving and you're in drive and you're going forward and you try to slam it in reverse, most cars will not let you do that. They won't just like switch it into reverse. It'll basically just say, no, you're going forward, you're going too fast, and I'm not gonna like let you do a bad thing. That's an example of a guardrail, and so you can build this into the system. The cost of adding those guardrails is you will slow people down and make their life potentially harder. And so the question that you have to have is it worth it to have people safe and demand that they wear seatbelts? Or is it better for your users to be able to not wear seatbelts? I'm of the mind that whether they like it or not, they're going to wear seatbelts because I know that those seatbelts are going to protect them. And if they don't like Mentor because they have to wear seatbelts, they can go use another system. There's lots out there that don't have seatbelts. Here's one. But Mentor is not going to, I can tell you this, Mentor is not going to ever delete your database. It won't. We will not allow it to do this type of thing. It'll be slower. It'll be more painful, but we'll get there the right way. At least that's my hope.